In Minecraft, there's the overworld, there's the Nether, and there's the end. But besides these 3 dimensions, there are additionally ghost dimensions which are between those dimensions. There's the normal ghost dimension, which has overworld chunks in the end. There is the Nether ghost dimension, which has Nether chunks in the end dimension. You can have end chunks in the overworld, and you can have Nether chunks in the overworld. Although it's important to mention that all of these dimensions only exist client-side. Like client-side, you can merge different dimensions, while server-side, the dimensions are always separate. And on top of that, we found a credits warp glitch, which allows you to go from the overworld end portal directly to the credits while completely skipping the Ender Dragon boss fight. Now, I should mention is that there are people who stumbled over these ghost dimensions before me. Except they didn't do it in vanilla or not with a consistent setup. So in 2018, Xizuma Void and Endvenom showed methods to get to ghost dimensions using the mod Optifine. And also it's Oreo showed a video showing how to get into these dimensions using the snapshot 20W13A. And I now will show consistent methods for getting into these in 1.12.2 in vanilla without any mods. And besides these, there are some people who have inconsistent setups where they just accidentally stumbled into it. For example, in my last video, there's one comment saying, my friend saw something like this on the latest version while he was in his boat, or other anecdotal stories, like something very similar happened to me, and somewhere I have a screenshot of finding something like this, and I remember doing this as a kid somehow. So there are anecdotal stories, and in this video we try to make consistent setup and explain what we actually do. So in the video description you can find a world download containing setups for getting into all of the known ghost dimensions. So right here we are at spawn, and if you walk into this end portal right here, it will start the thing for the ghost dimension, so you just need to press escape while it's loading to run, and then you need to get yourself a chorus fruit, and if you eat the chorus fruit in survival, then you will enter the ghost dimension. And this is a survival friendly way to enter the ghost dimension. In the last video I only showed a version using commands, but instead of using commands you can also just eat a chorus fruit, or you can use an ender pearl stasis chamber, but the chorus fruit is probably the easiest one. And this is the first ghost dimension, but I've already shown this one in the last video, so I will not talk about this much. Then let's talk about the next ghost dimension. So let's quickly relog when we are in the end. And here's the update suppressor we are using. The update suppressor resets pretty quickly because we are using an end crystal to delete the obsidian, and this is what we then update suppress. And it automatically resets because the end crystal can delete the obsidian, place the fire block back there, and then when it's reset. And this update suppressor needs a few game ticks to reset. This can be an issue because if you go into the ghost dimension, I think this chunk is only loaded for 1 game tick, and then it doesn't reset until you actually go back to the end normally again. But here's our resettable setup. If you just load it for a few game ticks. Okay. Now let's get to the next ghost dimension. The next ghost dimension will be Never to End ghost dimension. And I should mention that in this world download, if you're ever in the end dimension and you want to go back to overworld spawn, you should go through the Never instead of going through end portals, because if you go through the end portals, you go to your respawn point, and this also gets update suppressed. If you just normally want to go back, you should go here into the Never and over here, and then you're back at overworld spawn. So like this. This is just instructions for world download, and then you're back here. Okay. Anyway, the next ghost dimension is the Never to End ghost dimension. What you need to do, you need to be in the Never. I recommend maybe using a low view distance when doing this. And then it's the same thing as for the ghost dimension. During loading for one, you press escape, and then you should get yourself some chorus fruit, and then go into survival and eat the chorus fruit. And now you're in the ghost Never dimension, and you can put your view distance up again. I should mention that Only if you have view distance 2 does the chorus root actually work. If you have larger view distance, then it can happen that after you eat the chorus root, you're still stuck, because there's a certain invisible region and where you need to get out of, and how large the region is depends on your view distance. The lower the view distance, the less you have to do. So at the view distance 2, our chorus root is enough. At other view distance, you might need Ender pearl stasis chambers, and now this looks like completely normal Nether, except that the sky has like the end texture, but these are all ghost blocks if you right click them when they disappear. The Nether to end ghost dimension doesn't look very interesting. It's just completely normal Nether. And also if you place blocks here, then they won't get placed in the Nether, but they will actually be placed in the end dimension. I don't know, let's maybe teleport to somewhere around here and place down a few blocks, some wood here. And if I relog now, I will be in the end dimension, and these blocks will still be there. So let's quickly relog. And here we can see we are actually in the end dimension, and we placed these blocks here. So it should the Nether to end dimension just looks like the Nether, except everything you do will happen in the end. Yeah. Okay, now we come to the respawn suppression dimensions. First one, we have an end to overworld dimension. You can get there either if you walk through this end portal here, or if you just kill yourself and respawn. I will just now walk through here. And if you do this, then you will be in the overworld. But some of the chunks will get replaced by end dimension chunks. And the update suppressor is over here. You can't really see it, but here we have a population suppressor. Here we have some instant save states. And like if you want to know how to build stuff like this in survival, you can like maybe watch my fallen block tutorial. But yeah, anyway, if we respawn, when chunks around the player gets loaded, and if the chunks around the player get loaded, then some of them might start a Terran population. Like in this case, this is this chunk. This chunk is unpopulated on disk, and when we load it, then we have a liquid pocket radiator here, and we update suppress that. Yeah, and then you are in the end to overworld dimension, and then you have like you have some overworld chunks which were loaded in when you respawn, but you also have these end dimension chunks right here, and this is then the end to overworld dimension here. Now this respawn suppression idea for the end to overworld dimension is sufficiently non-trivial that I will give credits to the people who had the ideas. It was independently developed by 2 people, Maximum G9 and Celios Lab. I will not be crediting people for figuring out the chorus root or the Ender pearl stasis chamber, because so many people independently did this. But this is this respawn suppression idea is sufficiently non-obvious that yeah. And how nice this dimension looks can be kind of inconsistent. Sometimes you get this like this where it beautifully loads in, but sometimes it can also happen that it doesn't load in a lot of chunks. And just stops loading on chunks after very few of them. So if it doesn't look as nice for you, you might need to try a few times before it actually looks as nice as this. Yeah. So that's the end to overworld dimension. Then let's finally try the Nether to overworld dimension. And there are 2 ways you could do that. You could either just go into the Nether and kill yourself, but there's also another thing where you could get there without having to die. So like if you want to do this in hardcore, what you could do, you could compose 2 ghost dimensions with each other. So what you could do, you go into the Nether first, and when you go here, and we first go into the ghost Nether dimension. Okay, let's do this. Okay. So we are now here, and we can maybe teleport somewhere. I already showed how to get into the ghost Nether dimension, so this shouldn't be much of an issue. Okay, this wasn't far enough at my view distance. Okay, and now that we are here in the ghost Nether properly, we can go back to 0, 0, and at 0, 0 in the end there should be like the end portal. Or maybe let's just teleport there. So somewhere around here should be the end portal in the actual end dimension, you know. Here we can see it. Okay, we can right click the blocks. Here's the end portal, and if I now walk into this, then we will be in a Nether to overworld dimension. Because if I walk now into this, hello? I thought I would need to collide with this. Okay, apparently not. I'm slightly surprised. Okay, then let's try walking into an end portal in here. Does this work? Oh, this works. Okay. Okay, yeah, now we're in the overworld, and now we are in the overworld, but we have chunks from the Nether lying around, because we took the Nether to end dimension and we composed it with the end to overworld dimension, and then we have this Nether to overworld dimension. So we now have here these Nether chunks right here, and there is a way to compose ghost dimension. So if you have a technique for getting into a ghost dimension which goes from Nether to end, and you have a technique for getting into a ghost dimension which goes from end to overworld, then you can combine these two techniques after each other to get a ghost dimension going from Nether to overworld. And this also allows you then to get into a Nether to overworld dimension without ever having to die. So you can do it in hardcore, for example. And what this means is that the ghost dimensions then form a category. And category theory is a branch of mathematics where you study. So we want to find all possible ghost dimensions that we can get with update suppression, and for that we first need to ask what are all the possible dimension transitions we can do, and then we need to ask, can we update suppress them? So there are three kinds of dimension transitions we can do. We can either go into an end portal, or we can go into a Nether portal, or we can die and then respawn next to our bed. Those are the dimension transitions. With end portal we can either go from overworld to end, or from Nether to end, or from the end back to the overworld. And this can be done in any tick phase, because end portals immediately act as soon as you do the collision check with them. So this can be inside the player phase or outside the player phase. And if you do it inside the player phase, then you can update suppress it. And then all of these dimension transitions lead to ghost dimensions. So there's a ghost dimension where you go from overworld into end. And this can be done in vanilla survival, because this can be update suppressed. On the other hand, the dimension transitions with a Nether portal cannot be update suppressed, because the Nether portal is not in the player phase, and there's no way to get it into the player phase. For that reason, there are some ghost dimensions which we currently do not know how to get in vanilla survival. You can get them with Optifine, but we cannot update suppress a Nether portal. But what we can do is we can update suppress when the player dies and respawns. So you can do respawn suppression, because when you respawn it loads chunks around you, and this can populate chunks, and we can update suppress that, because this actually happens in the player phase. So accessible for update suppressions are these four ghost dimensions: the overworld to end, the Nether to end, the Nether to overworld, and the end to overworld. While there are two kinds of ghost dimensions which we currently cannot access. If you want those ghost dimensions, you need either Optifine, or we need some new techniques, maybe with packet loss or something, but we don't know yet how to consistently get them in vanilla survival. Okay, but what about the credit swap? If a player goes into an end portal and we update suppress the Obsidian platform, there are three different things which can happen depending on how many packets you send when you enter this end portal. If you send 0 packets, so if there's a server-side reason for you entering the end portal, then the server shuts down or the player gets kicked because it's an update suppression outside the player phase. If you enter the end portal with a single client movement packets, then you can get into the ghost dimension. While if you send multiple movement packets in a single game tick and all of them collide with the end portal, then you will actually be using the end portal multiple times, and then you will not just be sent to the end, but you will also be sent back to the overworld and get sent to the credits without having to defeat the Ender Dragon. And you can get multiple packets being sent in a single game tick if you have server-side lag or if you have a bad ping. So here's a word download for testing the credit swap. For credit swap you need a lag spike so that you can send multiple movement packets inside a single game tick. One way you can create a lag spike is by building a redstone dust clock like this. This is pretty laggy. Another way you can create lag is by increasing the render distance. So right now you have render distance 10, and then what you can do is you can increase it to 32, and then you move your mouse while walking over the slab here, and then here we have it. Here's the credit swap. So this is the credit swap, and so we beat the game. And if you were to now just normally look into the end, you would see that the Ender Dragon is still alive. So right here we have an update suppressor, but in this world file we haven't killed the Ender Dragon yet. So this can be used to skip the Ender Dragon boss fight with this method here. So the way the credit swaps works is you need to collide with an end portal in a single game tick with more than one movement packet, and you need to update suppress the first movement packet. You need to update suppress the Obsidian platform. If you do that, what happens is with the first movement packet you collide with the end portal, you get sent into the end, the Obsidian platform gets update suppressed, and when you are like partially in the overworld and partially in the end, this is the state in which you can go into the ghost dimension. But if you have sent in the same game tick already another movement packet, then the player will still be enough in the overworld so that this other movement packet again collides with the end portal in the overworld where you were. And then you will trigger the change dimension code again, but you will still you will already be enough in the end dimension so that this new dimension transfer actually transfers you back into the overworld when you get to the credits. So you enter the end portal that you have in the overworld stronghold twice. And the first time you enter the end portal, you get sent from the overworld into the end. And if you then cut this short so that you don't fully arrive in the end, but are still partially in the overworld, then the second packet can again trigger the dimension transfer, and then you get back, sent back from the end into the overworld. And now the question is, how viable is this to use in a speedrun? Because we need to update suppress the Obsidian platform, and if you do it the usual way by placing down 10,000 rails, then this takes a little bit longer than defeating the Ender Dragon, so this is not viable because it clearly takes a lot longer than just killing the Ender Dragon directly. But there are other ways to do update suppression. In, for example, in Minecraft version 1.16, there is an update suppressor which looks like this. This is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blocks, like 10 blocks. And you have an update suppressor in 1.16. And it, I think the version range is 1.14 until 1.18. And in 1.19 it's patched or something. But in some versions you can make very small update suppressor, and you could go into the end and build this next to your Obsidian platform, then kill yourself and then go into the end again. And this could be faster than killing the Ender Dragon. But we need to verify whether the credit warps works in 1.16, and this requires further testing. So far I have only got the credit warp to work in 1.12, and we need to do more testing to see whether we can get it to work in 1.16. But this is potentially viable. And then another thing which could be potentially viable is to do it in 1.12, but with perma-suppressed redstone dust. So perma-suppressed redstone dust is a trick I showed in one of my previous videos. In 1.12 vanilla, you can enter a state where every redstone dust is an update suppressor. And if you do it in single player and then switch to a different world, then it stays on. So like you could turn on perma-suppressed redstone dust before you start the speedrun. And then you could actually start the speedrun and generate a completely new world. But in the new world, all redstone dust is automatically an update suppressor because you previously did other stuff. And this would be completely vanilla. This would be completely survival friendly. The question is just whether it's legal to use crossword mechanics. But as far as I've read, there isn't any clause against using crossword mechanics. There are only clauses against using commands or cheaty stuff like this. But where I've in the rule set for speedruns, I haven't read anything that it would be illegal to use survival-friendly crossword mechanics. And if this is allowed, if we are allowed to use perma-suppressed redstone dust, then it would also be speedrun viable, because we would just need to place a single redstone dust next to the Obsidian platform, and then we could do the credit swap. And the important question is now, is the overworld and the end isomorphic in the category of ghost dimensions? We have a morphism going in one direction, which is given by the usual ghost dimension. Where we have a morphism going into the other direction, which is given by the end to overworld ghost dimension, where you need to do population suppression. And you can compose these two morphisms, and you actually get the identity morphism on the overworld back, because if you go into the ghost dimension and you die, and you then update suppress your respawn, then you're actually just in a completely normal overworld again. So this is the identity morphism on the overworld. Now you could also start in the end and then go into the overworld and update suppress the respawn. And then you could try to go into an end portal and update suppress that. But every time I tried it crashed the server for some reason, so I'm not actually sure whether these two are isomorphic. Maybe they're not. So this is left as a category theoretic exercise for the viewer. Yeah. Bye.